So a writer for Christianity Today, James Roberson, is talking about how popular the terms toxic, abusive, oppressive, and unhealthy are, and how it's become trendy to, the moment you encounter this, for your own well-being, cut people off. You quit the job, you cut off your parents or your toxic brother, your crazy uncle, just done. I'm done with you. Now, here's what he writes. He says, leaving and staying are neutral terms. Leaving isn't inherently good, and staying isn't inherently bad. We need to be better at examining the ways in which we're doing both. Instead of leaving or staying by default, we need to learn to pursue healing, accountability, repentance, forgiveness, and endurance. Let me start with a necessary caveat. And it's sad we have to do this, but people don't extend benefit of the doubt. He does a whole paragraph on, if you're being actually abused, you need to leave. Like, it's sad when people go like, oh, you think I should stay with abusive people? No, we're not saying that at all. Hello. But he gave the caveat, so do we. If you're in an abusive relationship or church, whatever, leave. Okay, now that that's said, he said, my concern here is the more ambiguous situations, the situations where we too often make decisions based on our imagination and assumptions, rather than on love, truth, and conversation that seeks clarity. Now he throws down some theology. Let's see how we feel about it. In general, as believers, we're called to be agents of reconciliation who, by God's Spirit, seek to cultivate healthy and clear communication in relationships. That's what Jesus urges us when he twice commands us to talk to and be reconciled with people whom we have offended or have offended us. And he gives some biblical references, but you can think of that. It's like, oh, if you're headed and you're going to give your sacrifice, but you got a problem with your brother, just drop it right there. Go back. Be reconciled. Mm-hmm. It can be overwhelming to talk through our feelings and confusion, yet it's important that we follow this command with a posture of openness. We must be ready to ask and wrestle with hard questions. If you're going to have a conversation that seeks clarity, for example, have you considered that there may be something new you'll learn about the other person or even yourself? You may find the other person or organization wasn't the only toxic part of it. He's asking, are you actually open to that? Many people are not. They've decided, you're toxic, I'm awesome, bye. That's how they handle it.
Yeah.
He says, conversation can't bring us clarity or reconciliation if we live in the presumption of our own perpetual innocence. I like that. As it's written, there is no one righteous, not even one. Generally speaking, this seems to me to be pretty good coaching, yeah?
I think so.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know how much we do it. I feel like I've gotten perhaps too comfortable with the idea of just, oh, that person's toxic. Bye. And I think we're called to more. We're called to uncomfortable discussion.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think we don't do it? And people are leaving churches like this. He says, right, like down in a blaze of glory, they're going to post some sort of like scathing post on the internet. I'm leaving this church because, and then they just spew.
Yeah, I think that's because they're narcissists. They're very selfish. I want to show the world how great I am by putting someone else down.
But the problem is they don't see that.
Most narcissists don't see it.
But
that
it's
is
become
a
so
problem.
popular, though, right? Like, yes, the extreme narcissist, but there's others who would be like, I'm leaving, and maybe more gentle about it.
Yeah.
I'm leaving First Baptist Church because it's a toxic place. Any church recommendations?
I think a lot of people are suffering from what is, I don't know if it's just a colloquial term or what, it's called like main character syndrome is what it's called. They think that we are all the main character in our own story. So it's really hard for us to assume the best in someone else. They meant to hurt me. But relationships are messy. If you're connected deeply with someone, there are going to be things that surface, but it's really uncomfortable to have to confront those. And we might have to do some self-reflection if we confront them and realize that maybe they're not as bad as we thought, or maybe we're even the problem.
Main character syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
Did you make that up?
No, I don't know if it's like an official like clinical term, but that's. Are you familiar with it, Lauren?
Yeah.
We should search and see if she did make it up, because if she did, we can call it the Daria effect or something. And we'll get it like copyrighted or trademarked. I love it. It's so good, though, because a lot of us do this when we read the scriptures, too, right? I had my friend, Pastor Doug Seletsky, did a whole series on this of who are you in this story. So often we'll like read David and Goliath and go, David, that's me. Slaying my giants, baby.
Actually, you're Saul.
Well, and he even argued, you're the crowd.
Mm-hmm.
The fearful crowd standing there not doing anything. But in every Bible story, but easily could be Saul, yes. We just by default make ourselves the hero in there. We identify with the hero in the story.
Right.
That's main character syndrome, I think, in a different biblical sense.
Yeah, everyone's out to get me. I deserve the best. If they hurt me, it was on purpose.
Yeah, and the challenge of that is I keep thinking of Skye Jitani's. He's a podcaster and author. He wrote a book series for Moody Publishers called "What If Jesus Was Serious."
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just so funny because it actually makes you think of this one. And this guy cites these passages. What if he was serious when he said, through Paul, if it's possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone? I don't like that. If it's possible, as far as it depends on... So to me, that sounds like leaving is the last resort.
Yeah.
Like cutting someone off is the last resort. If it's possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone, even the toxic people.
Mm-hmm.
Or how about this one? In humility, value others above yourselves, not looking to your own interests, but each of you to the interests of others. What if Jesus is serious about that? Uh-oh.
We all got some self-reflection to do.
Yeah, I so easily read that and go, oh, that's so nice. Let's make fun of the Pharisees some more. You know? But man. So I get, he doesn't get into this in great detail. So how do we figure out when we've done as much as it depends on us to live at peace with someone in our life that could legitimately be labeled toxic? How do we know when we've reached that point where we just can't anymore? I can't even. That's what you would say, millennial, right? I can't even.
Yeah, I think you have to really sit down and think through what you have done to try to resolve that relationship. Oftentimes we think, well, I've really given it all I can. Okay, sit down with the paper and pen, or if you prefer your phone, and open up a note. But, write down what you've done, and you'll see most times it's miserably little that you have actually done. You've just complained about being offended or hurt, or, you could list all the things they've done, but you can't come up with things that you've done.
I mean, something even as simple as we've all been around someone who is just perpetually negative. And it becomes toxic. Like they're always complaining, something's always wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we do is things like we don't directly address it. We'll say like, hey, anything good going on right now? You should talk. Let's talk about something happy. They'd be like, I'm Eeyore. There's nothing happy, But what we never do is sit down with them and look at them and go, listen, I care about you. But I really think we ought to talk about something.
Right.
Fruit of the Spirit's love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness. And what I'm hearing from you a lot is negativity. And I think it's hurting me, and I think it's hurting you. Nobody wants to have that discussion.
No, it's very personal, first of all. And a lot of people like me keep things at the surface level. So,
and me, brother.
I don't need to delve into your personal problems there. I'll just skirt the issue.
I mean, my family system growing up was everything's fine. It's like the Minnesota nice. How you doing there? Okay, good. Yeah. Oh, uh-huh. We don't deal with those things. It is so hard to have those kind of conversations. But dare I say, maybe that's what Jesus expects of us before we quit that job, cut off that person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
definitely.
You went to Moody. Do you think so? Give me an out, please.
No, I think so. I had someone I had to gently part ways with, and I had to have, I don't know how many times I talked to this person. It feels like 100. It was probably 4. And it was just like, this has to stop. This behavior has to stop. In short, they were like they really liked me. They were like kind of obsessed with me and wouldn't leave me alone. And they were my friend. And I was like, you have to stop. This has to stop. And they wouldn't. And so then I had another conversation. I said, okay, you have to leave me alone. We're not going to hang out. You're not going to text me. You're not going to call me. You're not going to just come to places because I'm there. We have to be done. And now they're back in my life many years later, and it's fine and it's good. They did their part and they figured their stuff out, and I took my time away, and we both were able to be separate but come back together. And I think that's kind of what's missing here, is that it's okay if it takes a long time, if the process takes a long time.
You gave like 4 chances.
Yeah, I gave 4 chances, and it never got resolved. And then it was time to, separate from each other. But then we were able to reconcile and come back together. There was never an official, like, let's reconcile moment, but it just happened organically over time.
And you have no doubt about how clear you were.
Yes. And I had another friend come alongside and
Just to
say the same
verify.
thing for me. No, went to them and was like, you have to leave her alone.
Wow. So I hear that and I think she must be in the Avengers or something. Like she's a superhero. No, I mean that's courageous to have that kind of direct conversation. I think it's thoroughly biblical. To me, that's an example of if it's possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone.
Yeah, you have to try. And then if you've done all you
But
can.
the courage, Lauren, where'd you get it? I'm sorry to jump in, but
That's okay. I don't know.
I think that's just your personality. But most people aren't like that. Like that's such an uncomfortable thing. It's so much easier to just quietly go away and ghost them.
Yeah.
I feel like you have that courage too, though, don't you?
No, I don't.
But have you done that before? I mean, you're also humble, so you're never going to say, "Oh yes, I'm very courageous, Brian."
I do not handle those situations as I should, and I haven't before.
Oh, I feel more human now. Thank you for that.
Yeah. I bet you don't like turn around and jump on social and
Oh no,
burn them.
I don't do that, obviously.
Oh, this toxic person, so I show them. I think that part of the example was, there's a toxic person and it's you posting on
Yeah,
social.
seriously. We did get a text from a listener I want to read really quick. I've seen it amongst my teens as a trend. I've witnessed both of my daughters cut off friendships as they label people as toxic. As an adult, I can see traits in those people, but understand things that could have shaped them in a way that, and understand that these things can be building blocks into deep relationships. But they just cut people off, and as a result, I watch both of them have friendships that are very surfacey. None of them tend to have deep-rooted friendships, and I see standing the rest of time. I know there are times when cutting off people is necessary. This seems to be a way to not feel deep or deal with deep issues.
Yeah.
It's definitely a young people thing.
Mm.
Like I've noticed this among a couple friends and some like younger distant relatives.
It's like protecting your own peace so much that you're not living at peace with others. So you're worried more about your own peace than you're worried about what Christ commands us to do, which is living at peace with others.
And see, from the outside, you hear that and you go, "Oh yeah, that's totally unbiblical, crazy." But I think people get caught in it, not realizing they're doing it themselves.
Yeah.
I'm cutting you off because it's causing me anxiety, and Jesus says not fear. So,
Yeah.
We can spiritualize these kind of things.
And you can also take a step back from a relationship. You don't have to totally cut someone off, but you also don't have to be texting them all day, every day, or hanging out with them 3 times a week. If it's not healthy for you to be around them all the time, and you've tried to have a conversation, if they're a negative person, be like, hey, you're kind of negative, can you fix it? And they don't. It's okay to take a step back.
You can love them from a distance.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's also the reminder, right? The command isn't be best friends with everyone.
Right.
Sometimes we feel that
It's
pressure.
living at peace.
Yeah.
And sometimes being at peace means just having some distance.
But the idea that we can find the perfectly compatible friend group where we all agree all the time and we are all happy with each other's behavior, that's an impossibility.
Mm-hmm.
I suppose it starts with a right view of ourselves, though.
Yeah, I don't remember if it was Ron or Daria, but like, what have I done in this relationship? Like, what have I contributed that's making this like a toxic relationship? Relationship isn't just one thing.
Mm-hmm.
I've probably done things too, and we don't want to do that. We don't want to see our own faults and stuff.
Right. And perhaps we can even be a better witness for Christ if we stick with people that most people wouldn't.
Yeah.
Or if we try to help a relationship be sustained where most would abandon it. Now, that's not an explicit gospel presentation, but it certainly is a demonstration of unconditional love, of following through on some of these difficult scriptures. I'm feeling convicted. Lauren, you need to teach a courage class.
I'm not. I look back at my old self. I'm like, how did I do that? I don't.
You had a dramatic transition, though. You'd be a fascinating case study for some sort of scientist. Because
Lauren's just built different, I think.
well, no, but
in a good way.
You also described when you were younger, this would have never been something you would have done. You were you were self-conscious and quiet, right?
Yeah, until probably junior or senior year of high school.
And then now you're just like looking at somebody going, no, we're going to stop this behavior or we can't be friends anymore. Like, you know how many people can't do that?
Well, it was like really obvious and pretty bad, bad behavior. So,
Yeah, well, no, this is where we have to lift each other up, right? As followers of Christ, we all have strengths and weaknesses. And that's one where we can all learn from. It's like, you know, this is not a Christian thing to say, but channel your inner Lauren. But in some sense, be inspired by it. Watch someone else doing something great. Thanks for sharing that story. That's really helpful.